Good evening. Welcome to the pre-service education. We're going to have Brother Overdorf just lead us in a song, maybe give a chance for more people to to wander in, and they'll hear that we have started. So, Song 90, Living by Faith. If this little pre-service had a theme, it would be heroes, or those who have lived by faith. Song 90, Brother Overdorf's going to lead us. And of course, he's an educator as well, and he was worried that he didn't have a suit coat on to lead in the song. And I said, if you're a teacher, you're allowed to not wear a suit coat. Teachers are okay just to be in their shirt and tie. But if you're a preacher, you better have that coat on. Well, let's sing Song 90 together.
Page 90. I care not today what the morrow may bring, if shadow or sunshine or rain. The Lord I know ruleth o'er everything, and all of my worry is vain. Living by faith in Jesus above, trusting, confiding in his great love, safe from all harm in his sheltering arm. I'm living by faith and feel no alarm. Though tempests may blow and the storm clouds arise, obscuring the brightness of life, I'm never alarmed at the overcast skies, and Master looks on at the strife. Living by faith in Jesus above, trusting, confiding in his great love, from all harm safe in his sheltering arm. I'm living by faith and feel no alarm. I know that he safely will carry me through, no matter what evils betide. Why should I then care though the tempest may blow, if Jesus was close to my side? Living by faith in Jesus above, trusting, confiding in his great love, from all harm safe in his sheltering arm. I'm living by faith and feel no alarm. Our Lord will return to this earth some sweet day. Our troubles will then all be o'er. The Master so gently will lead us away beyond that blessed heavenly shore. Living by faith in Jesus above, trusting, confiding in his great love, from harm safe in his sheltering arm. I'm living by faith and feel no alarm. Thank you for your singing.
Thank you, Brother Overdorf. I am Gabriel Clyde. I'm the Education Secretary, and of course this is the pre-service. So again, thank you for coming. There is a bit of a tug of war, a push and pull, a conflict between a teacher and a pupil. Of course, not every pupil or every student or child is the same, and so some children wouldn't have a lot of conflict. But generally, when you're in school, especially when I was doing a lot of teaching in the public schools, the 6th and 7th grade, especially the 6th grade, they're monsters. 6th graders are just monsters. They just don't know if they're grown yet or if they're little, and they're the hardest class, in my opinion. Not probably a lot of love lost from the heart of the student to the teacher. And sometimes it's hard for teachers to keep loving their students, maybe, once in a while. I'm not sure about that. Maybe they walk into the classroom, 92 days straight, just excited to meet that room full of kids. There is this little bit of a tug of war. I've heard Brother Dieter say it many, many times, you don't appreciate your teachers now, but someday you probably will. And probably all of us, as we look back at our growing up years, especially those that were in a Christian school, would look back and have then a different vision, a different sight of what those years were all about. And you'll have a very different thought about the teacher that maybe you even hated or disliked in a great way. Now you look back and you're thankful. Teachers should be our heroes. Often when you're a student, that you don't look at your teacher as a hero, you look at your teacher as the boss and the one who's making you do what you don't want to do. But the world has their heroes. I read in the news just in the last couple of weeks, of course, a lot of my friends are from the world, and so I see in their social media feed them moaning and groaning about the loss of some of their heroes. One of those was, I think, he was a wrestler. I put his name down here. I know I would forget it. Hulk Hogan. He passed away a couple of weeks ago, mustached guy. He was known for ripping his shirt off and throwing chairs around a ring. And the news media was full of, our hero has passed away. He was 72, I believe, and he's gone. And I had many friends just writing massive epistles on their social media about this great loss and what this person meant to them growing up. I just read it and it just an astonishment. Another hero, there was two of them. Another one that just recently passed away was a guy that they called the Prince of Darkness. I don't even think I want to say his name, but he was a singer. And again, I had people who were saying, oh, wow, what an effect this person had on my life. The Prince of Darkness. That's the heroes that the world bemoans that they're passing. And so the world just lost two of their heroes. They're not heroes of mine, and I'm thankful that I had no interest in them or in their art form, or what they were bringing to the world. And those two men will or certainly did stand before God and answer for their lives. But this year, the Wesley Methodist Church, with the Holiness Group, we lost two heroes. Probably more, but two very powerful men in Christian education just recently passed away. Tom Ellis and Charles Sullivan. And when I say their names in contrast to the names of those two heroes from the world, there is zero comparison between the two. Those two heroes of the world, they died as millionaires, large houses on cliffs that overlooked the ocean waters. They were known by many, by hundreds of thousands. If you said the name Hulk Hogan, what little boy hasn't probably heard that name? They were known. They had fame. They had wealth. But oh my, the contrast between the two. I went to Mr. Sullivan's funeral, and at the funeral, I saw John Bell was there, and I wondered why. Afterwards, John Bell wrung my hand and said, was he a teacher of yours? And I said, absolutely, ninth grade. Mr. Sullivan was my teacher for 9 months, and had probably second or third to my father. There's probably been no other man that has had the impact on my life that Mr. Sullivan had. And I pondered that 9 months. Up to that point in my years at school was hard. I was a terrible student. I was trouble, I suppose. And I didn't like school. And so in my younger years, third, fourth, fifth grade, it wasn't so much trouble. But when I became a teenager, it became more and more difficult. And I would just go to school just to get a reaction out of the teacher. I'd spent my entire time just trying to get a reaction. And generally, that's not hard. I showed up in Mr. Sullivan's class the first day, and I soon realized that this man, if I was a piece of steel, he was wrought iron. If I was going to go up against this, I'd better be ready. He wasn't mean. He wasn't vengeful. He wasn't vindictive. He didn't come in the next day for revenge on what had happened the day prior. He was just steady. If I could just think of a word, he was just steady. And for 9 months, I watched just a man of God. Mr. Ellis and Mr. Sullivan, they could have been something in the world. Probably not to the level of the two that I mentioned, but they were CEO types. And if you've been around much, there's a certain type of person that can fit the CEO role. Mr. Ellis and Mr. Sullivan, they had the personality, the disciplines to have been something in the world, but instead they chose to be teachers. Even within the church, we have our heroes. Generally, heroes are evangelists, and that's a wonderful thing. But we can say the names of evangelists, and it rolls off of our lips in almost awe. And you go if you're in those camp meeting circles much, you show up at camp meeting, and all the teenage boys know what truck the evangelists are now driving and what trailer they have. He's got a Ford King Ranch, and he's pulling this camper, and it's just this whole, got these heroes. And really, there's not a lot said about teachers. There really isn't. A man like Mr. Sullivan or Mr. Ellis, they didn't have a lot of pats on the backs along the way. Even at times working at Christian schools, where probably they were superior to the principal, probably. I hate to even say it, but they were probably superior mentally, intellectually, disciplined at times, because our little schools, you know how the influx of teachers and principals and school boards, you know how it all goes. And yet they would humble themselves and dutifully do the job that God had called them to do, with barely a pat on the back, very little pay. You know what our Christian day school teachers are paid within the Holiness Church? And it's not just the Wesley Methodist, but it's across. You go to our Bible schools. You know what our Bible school students, our college professors are being paid? It's a little bit of nothing. And I tell you what, I just wonder where will God find more of that kind to call? Where could God look to find a young man that is sharp intellectually, has a great personality, has character, has the skill set to be a CEO? But instead hears the voice of God, answers a call to be a Christian day school teacher. It's not happening much. It's not happening a lot. I wonder, where could God look? I don't know. God would know better than I, but I know God's calling. He's calling. He's looking for some heroes of tomorrow, some people that will step up and step forwards and be God's man, not for fame and not for wealth, but for the call of God. I had two people, and that's why I'm talking a little bit more now. I had two individuals. Brother Bell was going to speak about Mr. Sullivan, and I had somebody else lined up to speak about Mr. Tom Ellis. Well, that person backed out on me the very last second. I asked a couple other people, and I got no's. So I have no person to get up here and regale you with stories about Mr. Ellis. But would you be willing to stand if Mr. Tom Ellis was a teacher, that you were one of his students, would you stand? I would like to see those. That's college and high school. Is there anybody here that stand up, please? Okay, we have just a handful. Most of you would be college, right? College. Okay, I know that I know that you can talk off the cuff. So come on. No, I'm not going to have you come up here and speak. But Mr. Tom Ellis, I remember sitting in his class, and the thing that I took away from his teaching. He said, when I was first called, I thought God had called me to be a preacher. I soon found out that God had just called me to be a servant. And that life of service, sometimes I preached, sometimes I was a teacher, sometimes I just split wood. I remember him saying that when God called me, he called me to be a servant. And Mr. Ellis was a fantastic guy. And for those that have known him or sat under him, be very thankful for a hero like Mr. Ellis. But I'm going to invite John Bell to come up and share with us a little bit about the effect that Charles Sullivan had on his life.
Well, it certainly is an honor to be asked to speak about my recollections of Charles Sullivan, and I did have Brother Tom Ellis in college. Both of these men had great challenges with me. Brother Tom Ellis had to try to get me through literature in college, and Brother Charles Sullivan, well, he had a lot of influence in my life. He had to try to get me through algebra. And I'll mention that maybe here in a moment. But I'm just curious, how many people here tonight, just raise your hand, if you attended a Christian day school or were homeschooled, or you are sending a child or to home, you're homeschooling a child or sending them to Christian day school, just raise your hand. So a lot of influence of Christian education. And I realize that Christian education faces a lot of challenges, and we just have to prayerfully face those, but it is very important. One teacher's impact on my life, Charles Sullivan, he passed away on July the 5th, this past July. And I just want to read a line from his obituary that kind of sums up his ministry of Christian education. It says, quote, Charles spent 26 years teaching in private Christian schools. He had a special way of understanding, connecting with, and counseling teenagers, and he had a significant impact on the lives of many children and youth. And if you attended his funeral, you heard a lot of those messages and the eulogies that were given on his behalf. My interaction with him was here at the Stoneboro Wesleyan Methodist School, and I attended a small public school, kindergarten through 6th grade in Cooperstown, where I grew up, and then came to Stoneboro in 7th grade, middle school, and then Brother Sullivan was teaching the 9th and 10th grade classroom. They were a combined, it's a conventional school, and They had 2 classrooms for each teacher. His was 9th and 10th grade. And when I entered the 9th grade, I also was entering not only high school, but the singular, most tumultuous period of my life. I had no excuse to be unsettled spiritually, but at that time I became very internally rebellious. I wasn't my parents kept tabs on me, and I wasn't permitted to be outwardly, to display a lot of rebellion. But inside, it was a tempest, and I'm not sure how much. I'm sure that people like Charles Sullivan were able to detect what was going on, probably inside me, but I was in deep trouble. I needed someone in my life who could draw me out of the darkness. And as Brother Clyde mentioned, Brother Sullivan would also be easily in the top 5 most influential men in my growing up, who influenced me spiritually. And as with most young people, I didn't know then, but I've since pieced a lot of the pieces of the puzzle together, and Mr. Sullivan was a distinct part of my soul being salvaged from destruction. And from a student's perspective, I felt like I knew him pretty well. I went to church with Mr. Sullivan. We attended the same church. I heard him teach Sunday school and occasionally preach. And besides the Sullivan family, Brother and Sister Sullivan and his 2 daughters, Sandra and Sheila, I was the first student on the school bus. Brother Sullivan drove the school bus from Cooperstown. We zigzagged all over Canal Township, picking up students, and all the way to Stoneboro. And I was the first one on, the last one off of about, and it would take just right around an hour and a half one way to get to school and then return home. I saw him in the community working, painting houses, doing small construction projects. But where he had the most impact on my life was the 2 years I spent in the classroom with him. And it was only 2 years, as I mentioned, because he refused to flunk me in algebra class. And I'm not much of a risk taker, but a D- is cutting it close. But I don't think he wanted to see me again, and I didn't want to see algebra again. So he passed me with having mercy on both of us. Mr. Sullivan wasn't what anyone would have classified as a quote-unquote cool teacher. He did wear very dark sunglasses on the bus, but I think that was maybe an act of intimidation. He'd look up in that, the big mirror they have over the bus driver's seat, and when things were getting noisier, people were out of their seats, he would stare in that mirror with a very solemn face, and you couldn't see his eyeballs, so you just had to assume he was looking at you, and he would get decorum back in order pretty quickly. He wasn't an athlete, but he was a Christian. He was consistent, he was fair, he offered good counsel, he always had control. You always knew that he cared about you, even when he maybe had to, come down on you. He genuinely seemed like a called person to the classroom. All of those things combined were used by God to wave flags of caution before my rebellious spirit. And there was something winsome, something inviting, inspiring, and attractive about how he conducted himself in the classroom and how he lived out his Christian faith out of the classroom, which I was privileged to see. God used them to draw me and many other young people like me out of the darkness and into the light. And I am indebted to his influence on my life as a young person who probably didn't deserve to be in a Christian school. He is one of the most highly respected teachers from the Christian education movement that I have had the privilege of knowing in this way. A man of God, a man of character, a man of integrity, a man who answered the call to Christian education. He is a teacher who made a difference in my life, and I am very indebted to him. But I want to just say here in closing that time is not lost spent in the classroom. If you're a teacher or have been or will be someday, a lot of the rewards for Mr. Sullivan, and I'm sure it was the same for Brother Tom Ellis, a lot of the fruit wasn't, I'm sure, realized until much later in his life and into his retirement. And then, people start to reflect on their lives and where they've been, and you start to think about the people who were influential in helping shape and mold and form you. And so I would just encourage, if you're called to Christian education, stay the course. If you're a supporter of Christian education, this is not money wasted. Not all are saved. Not all students will be salvaged, but many are. And if you have the capacity to give and support, to contribute financially, to contribute in a physical way to your Christian day school in your area, I would strongly encourage you to prayerfully consider what God would have you do, because there will be rewards in heaven. There are going to be souls in heaven because of the investment that these people are making in the lives of our children, our young people. If they're not your children, they're young people from your church or your community, and it is worth it. And I am very, very indebted to the impact Christian education had, and Brother Sullivan in particular, on my life.
Thank you so much, Brother Bell. Well said. Well said. The world has heroes, but our heroes, the heroes of the church, the heroes and the heroines, Sister Durfee, did I say that correctly? Heroine? That's the female. Heroin. That sounds like a drug. Say it again, my English teacher from college that I got a D- in. The female version of hero is heroin. You're my heroine. Sister Durfee is. I didn't like her in college. First couple years. I tell you what, that's that kind of push and pull I'm talking about. The struggle. The world has heroes. I love Sister Durfee now. I do. I hope that didn't come across wrong. But the world has heroes. Allegheny, just look around you. God has put some amazing people in your life. Teachers, preachers, godly people, heroes. They don't wear capes. But God's also ready to call some more. He's ready to call some young men. Oh, you could go to the world and be a somebody. You could. You have the looks, you have the personality, you have the intellect. You could be a somebody. We all know it. The devil even knows it. But I tell you what, God's ready and willing and able to make something of you that will matter, a life that will matter. And to some young man or a young woman, a prodigal son, boys headed straight to a very bad road. But oh, what a change when a man of God stood in front of us and just was what God wanted him to be. So again, thank you for coming to the pre-service. Count yourself